Hello, everyone. I'm Erika Ellis from Living Joyfully, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Anna Brown and Pam Larikia. Hello to you both.
Hi.
And today we're going to talk about life beyond the golden rule. I'm looking forward to diving into this one. But before we get started, have you visited livingjoyfullyshop.com lately? Our online shop has Pam's unschooling books, lots of helpful coaching options, and online courses such as Four Pillars of Unschooling if you're newer to unschooling, and Navigating Conflict if you'd like ideas to help you navigate conflicts in your relationships. We also have courses on validation and navigating unschooling wobbles. At the shop, you can also learn more about the Living Joyfully Network. We're excited to be creating a one-stop shop to support you along your unschooling journey, and we hope you'll check it out. And Pam, would you like to get us started about the golden rule?
Sure. And to get us all started on the same foot, the golden rule is basically treat others as you would like them to treat you. It's kind of wrapping it up. And I do think that can be a great start on the journey of exploring and choosing how we treat other people. It's a reminder to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, to imagine how we'd like to be treated in those circumstances. And that comes with the assumption built into it that we treat ourselves reasonably nicely, and then consider doing that instead of reacting more negatively, right? It's just a nice reminder to treat people nicely. And I think it's got that nice hook of putting yourself in the situation. But what we're trying to get at with taking that next step beyond the golden rule, I think, is to bring in what is becoming one of our mantras: people are different. Because in some situations, even in many situations, the way that I'd like to be treated may be very different from how someone else would like to be treated. I mean, as I was thinking about this, it reminded me of a question you asked recently in the network, Anna. How do you like to be comforted when you're sad or upset? And it's been so interesting to read the replies to that, right? Because while there are definitely some similarities between the answers, there are definitely some distinct differences too. So many nuances, because we're real people. So what helps me move beyond the golden rule really is to try see the situation through their eyes. That's that next little shift that helps me. So if I was them, what would this look like? What would it feel like? So doing that means considering their personality, their likes, their dislikes, their strengths, the things they find challenging, all those pieces that make up who they are. And then from there, I feel much better equipped to empathize with them, to validate their view of things. And even if we're in that space, to share suggestions that are a better fit for them rather than sharing the things I'd want to do in their shoes. So it's just that little flip that really helps take it beyond the golden rule of putting myself into everybody else's shoes and what I would like to happen so that the world is all about me. And then recognizing that people are different in this situation. What does it look like to the other person?
Yeah. I mean, I do feel like it's a great place for people to start, right? Because it does, it's
Mm.
that idea of being kinder and oh, okay, yeah, how would I want to be treated? And that gives you that little bit of pause, which is always so important. I remember when I was kind of first thinking about this, which has been, gosh, like 25 years ago now, what I switched to was basically treat everyone how they want to be treated. And that was kind of my quick thing. I love now that we have over the years really gone into what you talk about, Pam, which is again like kind of seeing through their eyes. So I think it's kind of whatever visual helps you to really pull back a little bit and understand them. So, my piece of just like, how do they want to be treated? That's where we can get curious, right? We can think like, okay, we are different, and we can leave space for what do they want in this moment, because that question was a perfect example of how some wanted to be left alone, some wanted to be held, some wanted to be talked to, some wanted to process, all of that. And that's just with one tiny little thing of how do you like to be comforted in a situation. There's so many ways of how do you want to interact, what kind of jobs do you want, what kind of places do you want to go, how do you like to spend your time. All of these things, come into play when we think about how we move through situations differently. And if we're like, oh, I want to treat them how I want to be treated, you're going to miss a lot. And I think it can actually be really disconnecting, which is sad because that's not the intent behind the golden rule. It isn't to create a disconnect. But I think if you think about it, it really can. If someone's treating you in the way that they want to be treated, but it doesn't feel like they see you or really are honoring, who you are in that moment, it can feel really disconnecting.
Yeah, I really like that. And when I was thinking about, the intention that a lot of us have, as unschooling parents with our kids and with our families is like we really do intend to have this deep connection, these strong relationships. And so if that's the intention, then we have to go beyond the golden rule
Yeah.
to, really hearing what the other person likes, what really works for them. And, I think sometimes it's like an easier thing to just be like, well, what would I like in this situation? And we'll just assume that that's what everyone likes and just, do that. And so it may take a little bit more time and digging and curiosity and asking the people, how did it feel when I did that? Or, what would work better for you in that situation, that kind of thing. But yeah, like that question in the network with the how do you like to be comforted is so huge. And it reminds me of, like if I'm sick, I want attention. If my husband's sick, Josh, he wants to be left alone. And so, like that, it's just one part of life, this one small thing where if I treat him the way I want to be treated, I would be doting on him all day and giving him a lot of attention and asking him about his symptoms and, try to figure things out because that's what feels better to me. And so, but then if he leaves me alone, which he does, or if I am too, in his business, which I would tend to do for him, it's like we are missing what actually really feels good to each other. And so I think I could, come up with a million examples of just little differences between me and my kids, me and my husband, just of if I were to put myself in their shoes, I'm going to make a completely different decision than they will.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up intention because that's really a huge piece of it. What is my intention here? That helps me kind of broaden my perspective when I am considering and talking to them and asking. And even like it can be the story. Like I was putting myself in your shoes, Eric. If I'm sick and, wanting people to come and ask and like to talk about symptoms and to try and dig what might help, etc. And somebody isn't coming, we can be telling the story to ourselves that they don't care, and they're just happy for me to be sick and etc., etc. Versus understanding other people where they're coming from. So it doesn't mean that we're all like perfectly acting, you know what I mean? But it is such a great reminder, even in those moments when we're literally not connecting and talking to people, to understand that, the story that we're writing might not be what's actually going on, right? It makes a big
Yeah, that's
difference.
definitely where I was going, which is just then it creates the stories, right? Then we write the story of what it means, but it's really the same piece in that we're writing the story of what would that action mean if we were doing it. So
Yeah.
what would the action mean of me not checking on you if I were doing it? So if in your case, Erica, would be like, I don't like you. It's like, I'm not gonna, I don't have time for you or whatever, it might be the reason you would ignore someone if they were not feeling well. But for Josh, that's not at all what he's thinking, and because I'm more like him in that I just want to be left alone. Like I like check-ins periodically if I'm super sick, but not a lot of questions and a lot of other things because it just feels like weight to me. But that's what's so cool about this is you can see just even this little exchange and conversation, we're learning more about each other. And so when we can bring that kind of curiosity to it and no weight about what it means or, thinking there's one right way or any of those pieces, it becomes kind of fun to figure out and ask the questions. And I think sometimes maybe we haven't been encouraged to ask the questions or to be curious about it. We kind of had this idea of like, okay, a person's sick, you take care of them in XYZ way. Like maybe our parents pass that on to us, or we, got it from movies or wherever. But it's like, oh no, actually, isn't it kind of neat to just say, what do you want, when you're not feeling good? And here's what I want, and here's what I've been thinking about. And just opening up more lines of communication to kind of understand these deeper pieces, because I think sometimes as humans, or especially now, we may think that people aren't interested in those things, but our closest people really are interested. And I think if we model that being interested in and that of them, it really can help.
Yeah, yeah. I like rewriting it to, what you were saying, Anna, like try to treat others as they want to be treated themselves, right? But right, I think it is there is this kind of like maybe it feels maybe they would tell me if it wasn't working for them, like that kind of thing. So you may have to get extra curious and really just check in with the people, which I just think would bring like it just would bring so much to the relationship too, because that's that thing that I love about like let's learn more about the people in our life. Like it's
Yeah.
just so interesting, and the more that we can kind of just be curious and ask these questions like when I did that, how did it feel? And that may feel like a question that has never been asked in your whole life. And so it may feel a little bit awkward to have conversations like that. But like it really is how you figure out more about the people in your lives and the people that you want to be close to. So I think that kind of shortcut of the golden rule when you're just out in public, like, pushing your shopping cart to the side because that's what you would like for other people to do, like those kind of things work. But when it's these close connections and people that you really want to be in good relationship with, then asking the questions and just checking in and giving them the narration of like, when I am having this situation,
Yeah.
I love it when other people do this, or, I really feel supported when you do this for me, that kind of thing, just to give information. Yeah, I think it's another thing that can help us deepen our relationships.
I really think that that helps so much with like the connection, the understanding, like the empathy, the ability to see through someone else's eyes more deeply, because we're guessing, we're trying, and then you've got some who aren't so much into conversation, so then you're like trying something and seeing what the reaction, how does that unfold, and trying different things. It doesn't literally need to be conversations, but the exchange of information, being open and curious about it, whether you're looking for clues or you're asking questions. And I think one little thing that was helpful for me was if there were, like, if someone was sick and not feeling well, like when someone's off or it's a challenging moment, etc. Sometimes those in the actual moment isn't a great time to have the conversation, but it doesn't mean we don't. It's like, we can talk about it a little bit later. And then to be able to bring that understanding next time, like when Rocco's sick, and he likes to be checked on, and I'm more of a like, okay, yeah, all right, no, I'll let you know if I need something. But like we can make that little joke, like, I'm here, and it can lighten because it's like, I'm seeing this through your eyes and I want to treat you the way you would like to be treated. And I have the capacity to do this. So, it's like a deeper level, like we were talking about, of those stronger relationships, to be able to even just on a meta level discuss
Yeah.
this depth of understanding we have of the other person and bring that into the conversation as well. Because we can also change over time.
Right. And I think it's I feel like maybe it seems like it might be more awkward than it is. Because as you all were talking, I was thinking I do tend to like to be left alone in a lot of different situations.
Yeah.
But really, I think if someone asked me a question like that, I would feel pretty seen by that, like, because they're not pushing something on me. They're like, hey, what would feel good to you? Or did this feel okay? Or this is kind of what I'm thinking or what I like. That would be interesting to me. Like, that would be a conversation. I might not want it to be really, really long, but I think I would feel really seen by that. So it's interesting to think, even when, you have a child that maybe doesn't like to have big, long conversations, sometimes I wonder too, if that's because we're kind of inserting our piece into the communication of that conversation, maybe a little bit more strongly. And maybe the sign is, oh, we're not hearing them. We're not giving them a chance to say what's happening for them. So I don't know. I think it's interesting to just play with. And the idea is, again, just learning more about each other and learning more about how do we want to have these conversations? Is it better to have kind of trial and error and do different things? Is it better to have that conversation before or after or a little bit during? That's the fun of learning to live with other people and figuring out what makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. And it's kind of inspiring me to maybe ask that question a little bit more often with my kids. Because I
Yeah.
think one thing that can happen is, we get in the role of parent or in, this is how I've always done it or whatever. But we know that our kids change as they grow. And so it totally makes sense to keep checking in about, like, I mean, even you used to love this. Is it still feeling good? Or, when I feel like that, I really love when someone does this. How does it feel to you? Just those little curious questions. Um, yeah, to get to know them better.
Yeah, and I think I I I really like that perspective of not just like, okay, I know you now, like even with other adults, even with your partner, because like I know myself, things change over time. The way I like to show up the things that I like to show up for, the things that have kind of, run their course and now I'm not really interested in as much anymore. Just helping other people understand us and just sharing, like you were talking about narrating there before, Erica, like just being able to share those little pieces along the way so that we continue to understand and even like celebrate those changes, not make someone feel bad that they have changed. You don't like that anymore. We used to have so much fun doing that together. I'm gonna miss that, stuff like that versus
Right.
really diving into who they are right now.
Right, or making a big deal otherwise. I just thought of an example from my life. So in the early years, everyone that knows me would have said Anna doesn't like to hug. Like Pam, you probably even have that, know of me
Yeah.
from 25 years ago. But it's interesting, as I did work on my trauma and my pieces, I do actually like to hug people, especially people that I'm close to or friends with, or in a lot of different environments. But because it was like a thing, people will be like, what? You don't like that? And so then it's just like, okay, nope, I don't like it, forget it. Like it doesn't give me room to like change or grow. And so I think that's the piece, right? The open and curious piece of not assigning whether it's how we would see the situation or how we think they would see the situation, like get more information or leave space for it to unfold. And I think that is just worth so much more than, again, just the golden rule and ending there. But I also like what you said too, Erica, just about the golden rule, like out in the supermarket. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. It's a very good place to start. It's like, okay, yeah, I want to be kind to people. I would like them to be kind to me. Like that feels nice. And then it's like, okay, in my closer relationships, in my more intimate relationships, what's that next step to really deepen that connection and understanding of each other?
Yeah, I love that. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I really love this little topic. So I hope you enjoyed our conversation and maybe had an aha moment or got some ideas to consider on your own unschooling journey. And if you enjoy these types of conversations, I think you would love the Living Joyfully Network. It's such an amazing group of people connecting and having thoughtful conversations about all the things we encounter in our unschooling lives. You can learn more at livingjoyfully.ca/network or on livingjoyfullyshop.com. And we hope to meet you there. So thanks for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.